Hi everyone, welcome back to today's 3D modeling of the Titanic. So in this video, what I intend to do is to sort of replace the front of the ship. So I'm going to do a quick render cycles, and you can see the lighting of what it looks like. Just that feeling of, the environment of the Titanic. That's what I'm trying to create with this model. And I think the lighting seems funny. That's probably because I'm using Cycles EV. So, but I'm going to just go back to the modeling. So this is what we want to sort of remodel. It's a heavy mesh as it is. It looks cool, but I think I would rather want to reduce the size because it's very heavy, basically. So I'm going to start with the cube and put that in the center of the mesh. I'll probably go into so that's where the cube is. What I'll do is I'll just drag it down to where the mesh is, try to centralize it. It's down there. I'm just going to put it up to where the mesh is and then scroll in a bit and see what it looks like in the middle. Next thing probably want to do is to reset the origin of the cube so it's at the center of the Titanic model, and then that puts it at the center there. The next thing I want to do is probably go into wireframe mode and probably add a loop cut just to split the cube in two. And then what I probably want to do is select the right side and drag it up to the end of the model, or the current model. So we're basically starting from there, trying to sculpt the cube to sort of reflect the shape of the current model. And so I think that looks close enough, basically. And the other thing I'll probably do is to delete the other end of the cube beyond the center line. And that's because I think the most important thing is to have a mirror modifier that allows me sort of reflect changes on one side onto the other side. Ultimately, I wouldn't want to have to do this other side again, so it just makes sense to use a mirror modifier basically. So with the mirror modifier applied, next thing I want to do is probably look at some size of the cube and probably select the top and pull it up a bit just to align with the other mesh. Now, in some cases, you might not have this reference point in terms of having to model against an already created mesh. But in this case, it's just speeds up the process, basically. That's why I'm using this mesh that I've already created earlier. And because the objective really is sort of to reduce the amount of polygons, because the other mesh is quite heavy, really. So next thing I want to do is sort of drag the top of the cube to sort of align with the top of the current mesh, just to sort of create that sort of balcony of the old mesh. So I'm going to drag that in a bit, and I think it does seem to align properly. And then maybe next thing I want to do is do a loop cut across the cube, and that should probably create the floor for the balcony. Now I'm making it to align with the what I already had before. But I could just bring it lower a bit, because when you think of someone standing on that balcony, well, it also depends on the size of the human, really. So the balcony could be quite high, but then probably I need to put a human being in there. But I'm just going to put a loop cut and then drag it to the side and see if I can sort of cut out that side bit there. And I'm going to check the faces on the sides and see if I could sort of pull the side towards the back. So I'm just going to select the faces and then use the extrude and pull it to the back and try to align that with the back of the mesh, of the current mesh that's serving as the template. So it seems to be all right. So what I'll do there is then probably delete the faces. look at this properly again and probably pull out the mesh more. So it seems like I needed to have pulled out a bit more of the mesh actually. Extra bit of the mesh actually creates the balcony floor. So look through the mesh and see how to sort of align this cube with the original mesh. And what I'll probably do is put another loop cut in there so I can sort of draw the extension of the buildings of the structure that actually pulls upwards from the floor. So I'm going to put a loop cut there that's sort of aligned with that, and then another loop cut that's aligns with the front of the housing. And then next thing I do is confirm that I have that, and I'll just select face, select, and then look at it. It seems to be all right. It seems I've selected the right thing, and then I'll probably just pull up extrude arrow and pull that upwards so I can get the top of the housing. And I'll pull that close to the top in such a way that it aligns with the already available mesh. Then I can create a roof from that, create a small extension from that as well in order to cater for the curvature of the roof. Now, in order to sort of expand the roof, I need to place the cursor at a certain point of the mesh to make it so easy to scale the face off the point of the center of gravity or center of the world. So I'm going to put a cursor, 3D cursor in that spot and then try to select the face. Now this is what the heavy mesh looks like. It's quite ugly and it's definitely going to kill any game engine that's going to host this. So just going back to face, I'm just going to delete these that I've created. I'm just going to delete faces. I'm just going to undo that and probably delete vertices instead because the faces still leaves the vertices at the corners, but I need to have the faces deleted. I'll put cursor at this exact point that I intend to sort of expand the face from. But I also realize that there's some faces in the middle of the mesh, so I'm just going to delete that because I want the room to stretch across basically. So next thing I'll do is to select the 4 vertices and add a face. And after adding that face, I think, yep, that looks all right. If I bring it back into the main shape, that's what it looks like. Coming back into isolation, well, it's starting to look a bit similar, I think. We still need to sort of expand that face upwards to sort of drag it upwards. So now that I have the cursor at the center corner from where the face should expand. Now I'm going to expand it. I press S and it basically just expands it away from that corner where the cursor is. So hopefully the cursor, I'm just going to close this down so I can have some more space. And then the next thing I'll do is select this face and expand it properly. It's just going to expand away from the corner where the cursor is. So I'm just going to have it close to basically creating that curvature there, extension. So I'm just going to try to pull that again. Now it seems like I do have that extension done. So I'm going to now expand this to fill up the space for the main roof, and SX pulls across the X-axis. So I'm just going to bring it back a bit just to come exactly. It was quite aligned with the balcony edge. So now I've made this up accurate with the ends of the main roof. Press SX and it's going to drag it to there. And next thing we'll do is just extrude it upwards to align with the top of the housing. I'll bring it down just to be as accurate as possible. If I have a look at it, it looks alright. If I go into solid view mode. So next thing I want to do is to cut out the window perhaps. So I'm going to add a cube which is going to come in the center there. I'm going to drag the cube down to where one of the windows are. Let's start with the one on the right. Just going to drag it down to position the cube. So I'm going to drag it the right side just to align directly with the window. Left side align directly with the window, with the top, bottom align with the bottom as well. Position, so it's far back, so I'm just going to drag it back to the front. And then that looks all right. That looks, I think it's quite accurate. And then I'm going to go back into solid view and view from that side. Seems to be all right. So next thing I'm going to do is use a modifier. So the Boolean modifier will allow me cut through the main mesh. I realize that there are some faces in the back, so I'm just going to delete those faces. And then when I go into solid view, you'll see that the faces are gone. So the next thing I want to do is deal with this cut through of the window. I'm just going to add this into a new collection. Once I select the mesh, I'm going to add a Boolean modifier. So Boolean modifier will allow me cut through the windows. I just want to drag the mirror down. So I want the Boolean to operate before the mirror duplicates the mesh. And then I'll select the cube. So a cube basically cuts through the main mesh. And then I'll basically just do a duplicate of the cube to create more windows. Back into edit mode, wireframe, do a duplicate of windows and just pull them across. So I have 3 copies of the windows. Next thing I'll do is select the mesh and go into select the cube again in the Boolean modifier. And I guess if I apply this now, so if I delete the cube, the window space is provided, which is great. Fantastic. Now I'm going to delete the faces at the back of the windows. I'll probably go to the side, select all the faces and delete them. And then next thing I want to do is I probably want to, yeah, so I think there's a face in the center that I need to sort of delete. I'll just delete the face. And then I'll go to the side and probably try to reduce the length of the windows. I'll go into wireframe mode. Then I'll select the edge there. So go back into vertex mode. Select the edge, drag them towards the front, and then that should be better. Solid view mode, it look better as and then so looking at the mesh, I think it still looks all right. I think the next thing I want to do is add a cylinder. The reason for that is that we need to create a cutout for the holes below. Press RX90 and then I'm going to reduce the size and so place it over that whole balcony wall, and then I'm going to use the Boolean modifier as before to cut through the mesh. And looking at it from now, it seems like it's way below the floor that I've created. So I'm thinking, why not bring the floor down below the opening? It could be a sort of water outlet. It could be some sort of design. It could be serve any purpose, but it makes more sense to sort of open into the corridor on that layer and then bring everything down, both outside the balcony and within the balcony floor. So now it's below the hole there. Bring the mirror down as well. So the mirror gets to be applied after the modifier has done its job. So I'm just going to select the cylinder. I go into edit mode and then do a copy and paste as usual into each hole. And so you can see the line there. It's already trying to determine how to call out that cylinder. So I'm just going to select cylinder, the mesh, and then make sure the object is the cylinder and then apply the modifier. And then when I delete this cylinder, you can see the holes are already created in the balcony wall, which is fantastic. It does seem that it didn't get through to the back, so I'll probably need to go back because I actually want the holes to cut through into the balcony itself. So I'm just going to undo that and then go back into wireframe mode and try to pull back the wall. It's just close to the wall of the balcony. I'm just going to pull it back a bit to cut through the wall. And then what I'll do next is to select the mesh and then make sure the object is a cylinder and then apply and delete the cylinder. Now what you'll see is that the old mesh is actually covering the holes and the holes are visible on the new mesh, which is exactly what I want. So now if we go back into solid view mode and then we visualize this, and this is what the new mesh looks like with its low vertex count. You have to create a side joint. So what I'll do is to duplicate that layer and then sort of reduce it, 3D cursor, sort of reduce the size, pull it backwards, and then see if I can generate this curved part of the building. So I'm going to reduce that face backwards, and then I'll probably do a duplicate or extrude it downwards and expand it, increase the length on the y-axis towards the front. You notice there that it's actually dragging as well. It's pulling the entire layer towards the front as well on the back. So I'm just going to do that again and stretch it just to reach that front there. And the next thing I'll need to do is apply loop cuts basically. Still need to get that right, get the length right. The next thing I'll do is apply loop cuts and use the size on the y-axis, only y-axis, reduce the size of the loop cut so it matches the curvature of the main wall. I'll do the same thing just above it, just to make sure that it's aligned. Then below it, from center, I'll do the curvature again. Below that, I'll do, we still need one below that. So I'm basically selecting the layer, selecting the face, and SY just to resize on the Y plane. And what I can do there now is go into object view, hide the main mesh, outline. Yep, hide the main mesh. And this is what the new mesh looks like. Obviously, it needs to be aligned. So just go select the main new mesh because it's separate, and then select top, and then just move it towards the left a bit more. And then once that's done, I think it looks good. So if I go to the side, I'll see that we still have a face in there as well. But if we go into wireframe mode, this is what it all looks like. So I'll need to sort of align the back. I just press SY0. Could you also press SY and just move your mouse towards the corner. And the next thing that it really is to next thing I'll do is go back to the new mesh. It's much better than the high resolution old mesh, basically. So I'm just going to try bevel so I can bevel the size because the bevel modifier allows you to the edges to be so smooth because nothing in real life has a sharp end. So it's just going to give some bit of curvature. I'm going to increase the amount a bit, and then maybe probably increase the segment as well. I can see there how it actually affects the corner, but those little changes actually makes it look more realistic eventually. I could apply smooth to this as well, so I'm going to try this cylinder cutout here, and you can see what happens to the edge just to understand what's smoothing, what the bevel does, and then it bevels the windows as well, which is great. So I'm going to try to add a subdivision surface modifier to this so it can be so more curved. Like there are other ways to actually model this, and I think subdivision surface makes it look a bit better. So it just allows me to add only subdivision surface to only that mesh alone. But this is what it looks like in the real shape. I'm now just gonna pull out the old mesh, and as it is, it's heavy, so I'm just gonna put it somewhere I can hide it away from now. I'll use the new mesh, and I think this should be fine. The benefit of this is that I can start rebuilding the top based on this new template. Now I noticed that there's a missing part that I haven't actually completed. That's the open balcony at the top there. So I need to come back here and sort of work on the size the layer using insert and then resizing the face and bring it down, extrude it down. So I'm going to go to the top and then use insert. Then I can press I on the keyboard and then bring it in just to sort of create that inner wall for the balcony, for the upper balcony. So I'm going to select uncheck boundary here because it's when when you disable boundary. So I with the boundary unchecked, and I'm just going to pull it down, and then need to delete faces. Yeah, so I'll delete the external face at the back. I'll probably need to do that as well. I was going to select it and then delete. And then I think what I need to do is the spacing at the top is too small. So I'm just going to change this back to medium center and then pull that towards the front. Try to get it right so it looks close to the original. Yeah, so placing the original by it, you can see what it looks like. And ultimately, when I hide that, this is what our new mesh looks like, which is lighter and more beautiful than what we had before. Back into object mode and back to the Titanic shape, and we can see it's now in place there. So we might still need to extend that at the top to take for the, so I know the poles are coming down, but then we have the poles coming down on the right here. And then the next thing we'll do is probably pull this down, pull the bottom down, because this was the driver for actually creating a new mesh, because it makes it easy for us to sort of pull that base down so that when we go to the main ship itself, it's down, so it covers the entire bottom of the ship. You don't see anything there. We can create all sorts in there, but it has to be for us to create all sorts. Or we sort of want to hide the bottom for now if we don't have anything important to be there. So ultimately, in later videos, what we'll do is we'll sort of create new shapes for the entire wall of the ship, the entire windows. You'll see how I get to create these windows as well. But so if I select all this, select the size, and they can merge them. So that seems to match properly. And this is what it looks like in Unity when I've exported to Unity. I've now replaced the old one, but it doesn't really matter. You can always change the material to what you want. So I'm just going to drop it again, and that's what you see. That's what it looks like when uh, you put it in the Unity game. So I think I'm going to stop here. In the next video, we'll talk more about extend towards the back as well, and so creating the upper rooms as well. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Cheers and bye.